Hello traders, John at StockBookie.com. Today we're looking at the SPY, the IWM, the Qs, the DIA, and the IYT. We follow the daily, weekly, monthly time frames. We use technical analysis here at StockBookie.com. If you like these videos, go to my website, sign up, it's free, or click down here in the bottom right hand corner and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Guys, if you're looking for a new broker, you're an active trader, check out CobraTrading.com. Tell them StockBookie sent you, or sign up and use promo code StockBookie. Best in the business, been using these guys for years. Check them out, CobraTrading.com. You won't be disappointed. Give them a call. All right, let's see. So SPY, daily chart, 64 million on the day, 0.57 green or 0.23% green on the day. So we came down last Thursday pretty good, filled the gap, 750 retrace, bounced right back up, slightly bullish, but an inside bar bearish pattern. Bulls, you got to get back above the MAs here. It did close slightly below the 50 and the 20, and slightly bearish stance, but still in a bullish pattern up here. Again, micro, macro bear, micro bull, macro bear. So let's see what happens next week. Let's see if this continues, or do we start to slide? We start to slide, 200 MA, and then possibly lower. We'll look at it when we get there. And we got a great pivot right here too as well. We good support right there around 235 if we get there. Upside, guys, 250. I've been saying that for a while. 255, then 260, and we'll see from there. So, you know, this is starting to get slightly more bear on the bearish side. So we're starting to make higher lows here as well. So keep an eye on that. And we did close below the 50. Let's go to the weekly. It's the Friday close. Still above the 20, the 50, and the 200. Still in a strong stance on the weekly. We came back down. We're right at the 750, like I said. We filled that gap, and we're starting to bounce. But even on the weekly, we're down a little bit and sideways. Let's see if we continue. If we slip and get below the 20 MA, then we'll get lower prices. And I like the 50 MA on the weekly chart here, guys, and that's at 231.71. Okay. If the thing starts really falling apart, we'll hit this 200 MA2 on the weekly play on the little bit bigger time frame. It doesn't take a couple more weeks to get there. It could take a couple more months, but that's going to be one of the targets down the road for the SPY. Again, up targets 250, 255, 260, and then we'll deal with it as it goes up, if it goes up. Volume, guys, 64. You know, you even look at the weekly volume, a little bit lighter. Trying to float this thing up, and we'll see. We'll see going into next week. Some political stuff coming up, and they'll probably move markets up or down, and you know, it'll be a news-driven market like always. So, all right, guys. But on the weekly chart, on the IWM, we'll start with the daily. Daily chart IWM, we talked about this little bit weaker pattern. We had a slightly bearish pattern starting to play out. We got to this point, 134.13, caught a bid, boom, right up. We were inside this bar, bearish pattern, still below the MA, still in a weak stance. We're trying to make a run here, trying to get above the MAs. Bulls, got to get above at least the 200 and the 20, and then recapture this high pivot, this high gap window up in here around 139.38, and this gap fill here, 139, or let's call it was 140. Yeah, let's just call it 140. Then 50 MA as well. Then you'll probably start heading up towards the all-time highs, which would be 145 or so. A lot of work to do here, guys. Volume disappearing. Nice little float here. This is a great bearish pattern. Again, if it gets above the 20, starts to move up, that bearish pattern will fail, and then it has a possibility to move up into this area and possibly 141 or so. If it starts getting to the 750 retrace, filling the gap up here, if you're not short the IWM, this is the spot to start. And of course, double top and so on. Don't go all in right here. Just make sure you add some a little bit here and a little bit more, you know, maybe 150 if it got there. Your average price will be around 146 and do it that way. But again, this is a good bearish pattern that's starting to set up for some possible downside. Let's go to the weekly. Weekly is holding the 50 MA. It is below the 20. So again, this one's a little bit weaker. Look on the weekly. You have a little bit of a topping tail, a nice 3-week pullback. Hit this good support area, guys. Took a bounce here. You know, I'm going to pull this one off. I want to put a little bit. I want to go from this pivot since we're down below. It's going to say 750. Yeah, so they recaptured the 750, closed right at the 618, but the 382 going on the upside, but coming down, it used to be the 618. So got to flip it. So it is holding the 50 MA. Let's see if it starts to just chop around and go sideways. In a bearish consolidation above the 50 MA. This there sets up to go down. Right here, guys, 200 MA. This is the weekly chart, so this is going to take a little longer. But if we come down and get into this area, that's going to be a good bounce area for a long trade. We will be long again. We will be long one day, guys. Promise you. All right, let's go to the Qs. Let's go to the daily chart. Qs again, nothing really wrong. You know, it's been chopping around. We talked about this up move, then down. This was slightly bearish, started to come in. These are bearish moves too, guys. Making lower highs here, lower high coming in slightly. It looks like the SPY basically comes in a little bit chopping around. Let's see if this thing starts to move down. We still have about an hour left. Are we down on this one too after hours? Yeah, 31 cents after hours. Nothing big, but let's see if this pattern just fails. Nice retrace. They're trying to hold it up for a couple days. Volume gets lighter. We did close below the 20 MA again. Let's see what happens next week. There's not too much to do on this one. It's slightly bullish still above the 50 and the 20. Just tighten the stops, guys. This is a sign for a possible pullback coming up, and we will be able to go long again, believe me. Let it come down, buy the dip, you know, mentality, but just protect yourself if you're long in these markets. Weekly chart. Weekly chart, we're right at the 20 MA. No great shakes on this one. Nice little bullish pattern here. Nice little pullback, but now we're slightly going in a bearish pattern. Still bullish above all the MAs on the weekly, but let's see what happens next week's close on Friday. It is holding these highs up here, because if not, this would be a slightly bullish pattern here. I mean, it's a little bullish reg. It is going up and sideways, chopping around for, you know, shoot, what, 9-10 weeks or so. Still above the MA, still strong stance, so this thing could go. But bulls, you got to get above these highs. If it can't get above the 145.96, it's not going anywhere. But if it gets above there, 150, 155, this thing starts to break down. This is a weekly chart. I'm still thinking 130-ish area. Then we'll see how they set up. Then ultimately 108. The markets are weak and they really start tearing down a little bit. Weekly 200 MAs, guys, that's where everything's going. All right, let's go to the DIA. And volumes, you know, still light on these. You know, it hasn't been too bad on the DIA. This is the weekly chart. Weekly chart, again, we'll start with this one above the MAs. Slightly bullish. You know, it's just floating up, floating up. I mean, it coming down, going sideways now. You try to get above this trend line here. Came in, failed, came back down. Weekly close, we did close slightly below it. So, but we did close above the 750 or the 250 up in this area. So watch for that. Weekly chart, nothing wrong. Volume was okay, so I was just getting a little bit lighter every day, or every week, I should say. Daily chart, probably the same way. It's just getting lighter and lighter. But again, you know, kind of same thing with the SPY and everything. Making lower highs, coming in, up. This is slightly bullish, but you're still in an inside bar bearish pattern. It starts to break down. I'm still going to say this low pivot down in here around 206. But, you know, it's not going to go straight down unless something happens with Trump or, you know, some political stuff. But just watch out for some downside, okay? Upside, 222, the all-time high, or 221.68, 225, 230, and then 236, and so on. There's a big trend line coming up too, but this was a big one as well. This one got above it, chopped around, came back down, trying to get above it again. Let's see if we can make that happen on the daily chart. Let's look at the weekly. Volume's been okay in this one here. It's 38 cents up, a little bit down after hours. No great shakes. Like I said, weekly above the MAs. This one's fine. You know, let's see what happens. But, you know, first target will be around 212, wherever the 20 MA is. If that cracks, then you're going right here to the 202 area. Fill this gap down in this 200 area if it starts to come down. Still has a little bit of support coming down, even on the daily chart, so watch for that. Let's go into the IYT. Just like the IWM, guys, this one is lagging still, but we did come into the weekly chart. Look at that. We kissed the 50 MA on the weekly, and we got the bounce. Save the day. I still think we're coming down here to the 157 area. So if we retrace back up into this, and you're not short this one already, you can short it up into this area. You're around 171 to 172.83. That would be a good area. If it got there, I mean, if it got double top, that would be even better. If it breaks through double top, you're probably going to 180, 185 if this thing can get going. If this thing starts going sideways again in a weekly manner, bearish manner, then we can set it up for the 148, 150 area, and then the gap fill down in here. Remember, November lows. That's where we're going to be heading. It's just a matter of when, guys. And you know, I'm telling you guys, higher prices. You know, as the bulls on this one, guys, daily chart, you got to get above the MAs. You got to fill the gap, get above this pivot. This is going to be a big pivot. You got to get above, and then fill the gap right here around 171 or so, 170.75. You could get above this 750 and fill this gap. This is where I'd start adding if you're not short the IYT already. 173 to 175. Then you'd add more about 180. We got to 185. That'd be your last portion if you wanted to do it that way. Just slow and steady, guys. Small positions. Rock and roll and keep them going. But daily chart, a little bit weak. I mean, they tried reversing this thing completely. It didn't engulf it, came back in at the close, but this is weak. Down, sideways, in a channel, trying to make higher highs. I mean, it's got to get up here. This is going to be a big trend line as well. Go right there. This is going to be a good area. It starts coming in, so but we'll see. We'll see how it acts. This thing starts to move up. It can get above the MAs, bullish. Then these are big areas in this there in the gap fills too. This trend line, and if this thing stays down here, we're definitely going to 157 and then possibly lower. So be careful, guys, in these markets. Like I've been saying it for a while, but now it's just giving me a little bit of signs to say, hey, we're making these lower highs here, starting to chop. This one's lagging again. Next thing you know, we're here. Next thing you know, we're at 150 and possibly going lower. So bulls, be careful. Bears as well. Tighten those stops if you have to. If you're trying to go long this one, here's the next area, about 157 or so. If it starts to go up, like I said, it's got to recapture, go in a bullish manner, start moving up. This is setting up, in my opinion, for possible more downside first before we do buy the dip mentality. All right, guys. Thanks again for stopping by and watching my videos. Check out cobratrading.com. We're gonna do a couple more hopefully this weekend with the weekly charts. Those are the bigger times bigger time frames we're following in these light volume markets. So that's something I want to show you guys, hopefully on every weekend with the Friday close and the weekly close. All right, guys, thanks again for stopping by. Really do appreciate it. God bless. See you on the charts.